Welcome to another episode of Non-Toxic Conversations. I'm Sam, your host with Balanced Friends, and today I have Alec, which is amazing. I use his products, and he is just, I highly recommend. I'm so glad that he's here. He's with Good Nature Organic Lawn Care. So we're going to be talking about all things organic lawn care today. So welcome, Alec. Thank you so much for being here. I first off wanted to start by asking you what inspired your journey into this organic lawn care business.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me, Sam. It's nice to talk with you on this, so appreciate it. I guess my organic lawn care journey, kind of the long short version, is back in high school. We had a biology teacher who talked about. He came into class one day and talked about how he was complaining because they're trying to get trout established in some of the streams in outside of Cleveland, Ohio. And he was complaining that the fertilizers and pesticides that people were putting on their lawns were causing water quality issues in the streams, and they were causing issues for their fish. And he kind of went on a little rant for a half hour about this. And I thought, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And so, I lived kind of in the country, and one of my jobs was to spread sky, whatever, no names, but the traditional chemical 4-step fertilizer program.
Yep,
and it was a big area, and we liked playing out there, and we had a little stream kind of down at the end of the grass there. And so my old man said, okay, well, let's, go out and apply the weed killer now. And I said, no, I'm not doing this, Dad. And so I had my understanding of why we didn't want to do it. And we fought about it for a while, and eventually said, okay, well, you just got to figure out something else. And so back in those days, it was like the library, and was able to find some organic fertilizers. It was basically, back then, we were using like composted poultry manure. And so we started fertilizing our yard organically, and didn't really think much of it, but it was nice. It worked fine. And in some ways, I thought this is even nicer than, when we were using all the pesticides. So didn't think about that, just kind of, that was just it. And went off to school, studied engineering and a little bit of business, and was getting out of school thinking, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And
as we all do.
Yeah. Didn't really want to be an engineer, didn't want to be a consultant. And I had a business in high school and college, and I enjoyed that part of life. And so I just kind of made a list of businesses that might be interesting. And the idea of, giving people the option to take care of their yards the way that we took care of our yard at home, I thought maybe people would be interested in that. So that was in about year 2000. Got involved and kind of dove into the organic lawn care world, which there wasn't much of a world there, but there's an organic agriculture world, and dove into that. And, it's been a long process of learning, and we're continually learning. So that's kind of my background.
I mean, that's business ownership, isn't it? We're always learning new information and just kind of pivoting along the way. But what I really love about what you guys do is it really just fits perfectly in alignment with what we're doing at Balanced Friends. Like, we're there to lower the toxic burden on the body, and lawn care is such a big part of that. And I think it's overlooked. Like, you're out playing on your lawn, your kids are playing on the grass, like, you're very much so outside playing, and you will get in contact with harmful chemicals through non-organic lawn care. It really is important. And it's, reaching for the organic option will just help keep your toxic burden lower, which is what, we're all about, getting toxins out of the body at Balanced Friends, but also how can we avoid them? The other question I wanted to ask you is, what really makes Good Nature different? I have my own thoughts because I've used the product, but I definitely want to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm listening to you talk about from your functional medicine approach. I think the organic, ag and organic lawn care is a very similar model and thinking to a functional medicine approach, which is basically how do you create health rather than kill sickness, and so you're trying to, with functional medicine, you're trying to make your gut healthy, you're trying to, eat the right foods, and so that your body can function well. And it's crazy, the nutrient balances, like when we try to get our soil into the right balance, the nutrient levels that we're looking for are very similar to the ideal levels for the human body. So, I mean, there's a correlation there. You get the soil right, the plants are healthier. So that's kind of the number one thing that is different, is that we focus on creating healthy grass and healthy plants so that those plants and grass can compete and not require the pesticides like the weed killers, insecticides, those kinds of things, in order to stay attractive looking. So that's really the main focus. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And you guys actually did a soil sample at my house, which I thought was very interesting and really makes me think of, like you said, what we do in our practice by providing those functional medicine lab tests, like really from the comfort of your home. And then we can see what are you depleted in. And then we begin to do, basically add in those deficiencies to make, the body more healthy at that root cause level. So what you're saying is you do the same for soil, then you put back in the nutrients into the soil to create more healthy grass. And then I hope I'm also understanding this right. So then once the grass is robust and healthy, then it doesn't allow the weeds or like the sickness to grow, if you will.
100%. And you can apply this to like all the different kinds of services we do. It's really your phrase, the root cause level, is 100% it. Like whatever we're doing, we're trying to get back to the root cause so we can address the real issue. And so often what pesticides are is they're covering up the fact that there's another issue, but they're an easy solution. So like, we were talking before we started about ants in your house. If you have holes in the foundation and areas where they can creep in easily, like that's the root cause. Fix that before resorting to kind of spraying pesticides. So that's the whole philosophy, is get to the root cause.
I obviously love that so much. And I think one thing that got me thinking about organic lawn care before our paths really crossed, and also this year I'm going to try out, I know we haven't talked too much about this yet, but the bug solutions you guys have, I'm really excited to move forward with that this year and add that to my plan, because I had this experience have been last summer, where the company I was using, they came out to the property and they were spraying stuff. And I thought I was going with a, more clean company, and I was feeling good about it until they told me, they're like, we can't spray around. I have a garden in the back and then some blueberry bushes. So I told them that, and I'm like, just, they're back there. And it was the first time I had ever mentioned it. And they're like, oh yeah, we're not able to spray close to those. And then that got me thinking, like, okay, wait, why? If this is like organic, and like what's going on there? So I feel like you guys really do formulate your products differently, so that like, it wasn't until I started using your company where my kids literally could go out on the lawn like after you guys were here. I think there's a real difference in the ingredients. Can you speak to some of that and kind of the greenwashing that can maybe happen with some of the other companies there? Because I feel like I was tricked.
It is confusing. Like, and it's, I'm not saying that there's a place for the pesticides. Like, I'm not saying there's not, but for us, that's not what we do.
There's a time and a place.
Yeah. That's just not what we do, but I'm not, maybe there's situations where maybe it's appropriate, but for us, like what I would look for the lawn care, there's some typical pesticides that people use, and 2,4-D is the typical weed killer that kills your dandelions and clover and things like that. There's some others that are kind of similar to that, but 2,4-D is if you look at the LD50, which is how they measure toxicity, it's 10 times more toxic than glyphosate, which has gotten a lot of press for the Roundup issues. And so that's the main one for weed killing. And then there's insecticides. There's a number of them. There's I can never pronounce these things correctly, but neonicotinoids, I think is the right way to say it. And I know that those have been banned in Europe for a number of years, but they're still used here. And then lastly, in some cases, people use fungicides. I guess not lastly, there's another set of weed killers that are called pre-emergent weed killers, where they form what they call a chemical blanket on the surface of the lawn. So you put it down in the spring, and then if a crabgrass or another kind of weed tries to sprout, it kills it. That chemical blanket is active for a few months and it kills it. And so for us, what we're saying is like, hey, number one, we're not going to use any of that stuff. Like, so let's get rid of that. And then two, let's focus on making the soil healthy, getting the right grass types, helping you as a homeowner know how to mow your lawn correctly or advise your landscapers. Or, we now install robotic mowers to help people because those will actually do it, it'll do it perfectly. So you don't have to worry about, scalping the lawn or anything like that. So doing all the things correctly. And then we use, specific nutrients that like favor, in the case of the lawn, that favor the grass over the weeds. So we're not going to say you're going to have a 100% weed-free yard, but your grass will be healthier and it'll look attractive and compared to, fit in okay with the neighborhood. It's not going to be like Augusta National, but it'll fit in okay. In some cases, it might be greener in the summer heat than your neighbors who's using the kind of salt-based fertilizers. So that's what, for the lawn, that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
For like mosquitoes, fleas and ticks, like a lot of people, there's a common, the products typically used there are pyrethroids, and they'll say sometimes that they're derived from chrysanthemums, but really they take a compound that's similar that comes out of chrysanthemums and synthesize it at a way more concentrated level. And so I don't know that much about it, but instead of using that sort of thing, we use like garlic oil, cedar oil. You put that on your vegetables and you eat it, and maybe it tastes a little bit more like a piece of pizza, for a day or two. But
I love garlic.
They're less killers than they are repellents that maybe the bugs don't like. So that's kind of typically, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, but honestly, like you just went into so much, and it just reminds me of exactly why you're the professional and I'm not. So in my decision of organic lawn care, I just knew, I'm like, okay, I want somebody obviously that knows what they're doing and who is truly going to use zero chemicals, because I tried another company before this, and it wasn't until really who dived into the ingredients that it actually was more of like a blend, like some chemicals, some not, but they still advertised as organic lawn care. And so, I mean, that really bothered me as a consumer. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't know it was like actually blend, because I would personally prefer no chemicals. And I don't care the occasional weed pop up, but I think people would be really surprised to hear that, like, my grass is so green. My neighbors are coming over and they're like, wow, your lawn is so green, which really leads me to my next question. What are some common like misconceptions about organic lawn care? Because I'm over here thinking people are like, oh, it's not really going to work. I've had great results.
So I mean, I think typically that's one thing that people are concerned about. Oh, is my lawn going to die? Is it going to look terrible? So that's one concern. The other concern, and by the way, so on that front, I would say in a lot of ways, your lawn can be healthier with an organic approach, because we're making the soil healthier. We're feeding the soil. It's a more active soil. The roots will go down deeper. Like that can take a few years to notice the benefits of that. But after a few years, like the soil's healthier, the grass can be healthier. And from a weed perspective, like we said, there's probably going to be some weeds, but nothing dramatic. Like I feel like it's at a point where they're not going to be terrible, and we can adjust things, try to improve that if it's an issue. The other thing that people are always concerned about is like, is it going to stink? Is it going to smell really badly? And so, for the most part, like the things that would smell early on, I said we were using, my parents were using the poultry manure. Another typical organic fertilizer is like a biosolid. And so that's a compost or treated sewage sludge. So those can be the manures and the sludges and the blood meals. Like they can be good ingredients, but they're not something that we would use in our program just because they have that odor. That in the biosolids, there's some other reasons to be concerned about. But so I think the two misconceptions are, will it work? And does it smell? That's what we hear a lot. And the answer is yes, it does smell a little bit, and I think it smells great relative to, like, especially when you compare it to like a 2,4-D smell. Like ours smells like a little bit earthy, maybe like natural smell. So I don't think it's not, I don't look at that as a negative.
I have not had any of that at all. And actually, it's when I'm walking around the neighborhood and taking my kids for a short walk and somebody is spraying chemicals, that's where I can smell that. And I don't like that at all. And I will literally turn my shoulder around and we got to go another direction because it's just like, it's overpowering.
Yeah. So I personally, I agree with you. So I like the way our stuff smells.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, oh, I've never had any, like I never have walked outside and I'm like, well, good nature was here today and now it stinks. No, I've never had any of that. And it's worked wonderfully. That's why I'm like,
you'll smell, I think you're new to the garlic this year for the mosquitoes, which you'll smell that, but it goes away in a couple hours and I think it smells good. So it's a personal preference there.
Yes. Garlic doesn't bother me. You know, it's actually like a really great treatment for ear infections. Like my kids have been getting these ear infections. I don't know if it's like mucus related, the change of the seasons, but you drop some garlic oil in their ears and it's magic. So I swear, garlic, love it. Love it for all the things.
That's good to know.
So why not mosquitoes, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I know you had said it could take up to a couple years to see like the full benefits of organic lawn care. I mean, I feel like I saw results sooner than that.
Right away, like you'll see, it's not like our treatments aren't doing it. They're working, like they'll help your lawn be greener, but the stuff that you're not seeing, like the under the ground stuff, that soil is getting healthier. And for that soil to continually get healthier, that will, after about 3 years, like your soil is in a lot better shape than if you were, not using our, program that's feeding it. But, if someone were to start with us in the spring, like you'll notice an impact right away. And then the next year, I think it would be even more so. So it just kind of builds on itself.
Once again, going right back to the body, it's the same thing. You didn't get in this position overnight. You didn't get sick overnight. You're not going to bam, all of a sudden bounce back. It just doesn't work that way when you are taking a more root cause approach. It just takes time. That's how it is. I was going to ask you too. I know we had talked about the lawn care. We've talked about bugs. You also mentioned that you guys have that robotic lawnmower. What else do you guys offer? Don't you have a DIY situation?
We do. Yeah. So we have a DIY organiclawncare.com is kind of our do-it-yourself site. So, and we're continually working on that to try to make it easier. But the idea is kind of what we do in our business is try to say okay, if you're a client, what result are you trying to achieve? Some clients want that lawn to look just like Augusta National, and some are happy to have a lawn full of clover and they like that. And so our first step is understanding what they want. And then the second step is developing a program to kind of help them get that. And so our DIY site tries to do that as well, where you can choose kind of what type of lawn are you looking for. And then we try to guide them to get the right products to achieve that. So that's kind of the do-it-yourself.
And that's really nice because I think that's where some of these misconceptions come from is people are maybe out there just throwing random essential oils on their grass or vinegar, or I don't really know. They're trying to DIY, but there's not enough guidance to make it actually look good. So I can really appreciate that approach. And I also hope that like a DIY situation will allow more, are you able to reach more people so that we're just trying to spread the word of, please, let's just use less chemicals for not only our health, but also for the environment. So that would be a good way for people that maybe are not in the community you serve or in the area to also take a more natural approach with some guidance.
That's exactly why we did that, because we keep getting calls from people that we couldn't help. And so we tried to make it in a way that's, a little bit easy to understand and do it. And so that's one, so we'll help people do it themselves. And even if they're in our service area, maybe they don't want to pay us to do it, we're happy to deliver products, that kind of thing. But then, so that's one. It's really the yard outdoor services. The
Mhm.
robotic mowing is something that's, I think, is really cool, because one of the issues we see with people that causes a problem with when you're trying to have an organic lawn is if you go on vacation for 2 weeks, you let your lawn grow really tall, and then you come back and cut it really short. What that does, that like shocks the root system. It really hurts the grass, and so
Oh,
then now the weeds have the upper hand. And when you're not using, weed killers, like, you don't want to give the weeds the upper hand.
right.
So that's a big issue we see when we set up a robot for somebody. It's like, it'll mow, it's quiet, it's clean, it's not exhaust, all that stuff. But in addition to that, it mows every few days. And so it's, instead of taking off a couple inches of grass, it's taking off, a quarter or an eighth of an inch. And so it's
Hmm.
really good for the lawn. Like, the
Yeah.
grass really thrives under those conditions. So that's, it's not always appropriate for every yard, but where it
But
is.
how great for like my neighbor has
Yeah.
back issues, and like how great to have that option, or even for like a geriatric population, or like you said, vacation. I feel like there's definitely times where it's totally appropriate. That's so great that you guys offer something
Yeah.
like.
So that's a cool, I think that can be helpful. It fits in with the organic approach. And then, the kind of mosquito, flea, and tick, ticks are becoming a bigger issue in the Midwest. So we'll use cedar and sometimes thyme oil and garlic and things like that to try to kind of repel them out of the yard, rather than having to put a flea collar on your pets or whatever.
Right.
And then trying to keep, ants outside of your house. We'll come around and do ants and mice and rodents and things like that. We use all organic, basically oils, around the base of your foundation to keep make a basically repellent barrier where the ants don't want to cross.
I'm excited for you to come to my house. I don't think I told you this. I know I told you about the ants that are trying to come in. But basically this house is 25 years old, and we've owned it for maybe 3 years now, but there was not good maintenance up until this point, which, again, not trying to talk badly about anybody. Maintaining a home is very difficult, but we're now we're trying to catch up. And we literally had a squirrel get in our wall, and it died in our wall. It was like a whole thing. And so, yes, we need your help.
We'll have to talk about that. Yeah. The rodent program, we'll make sure you're set up for that.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what I didn't even
Yeah.
know that could happen. I'm a first-time homeowner. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that existed. It was nuts. That's amazing. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I think, geez, off the top of my head, I feel like that's probably trees and shrubs too. If you build a new house and you plop some trees and shrubs in the ground, it's an expensive investment. And, we can come out and do kind of regular treatments that help keep them healthy, improve the soil around them so that they can kind of acclimate. And then if there's specific issues, like a particular pest, we have different organic options for dealing with those.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Very good. Thank you so much for being here. This was so informational. And I just want to encourage people to know you don't have to know all of the things. You don't have to know why the organic lawn care works. You don't have to know the science behind everything, because you have a professional that can really help you. And you guys have made my journey so easy, from, the soil test to even just calling and getting that free quote was so easy. I think it was all through satellite. So it was just been amazing, working with you this far. So I hope that this episode finds the people who need it the most. And then, together we can create that change of just a less toxic environment and a less toxic body. The things that we are seeing in our practice is alarming. And I think what you said, you started in 2000, and there wasn't really a market. You may have been the leader in the organic lawn care industry. I feel like we started our business about 6 years ago, and I do think we're on the verge of a shift. I think more and more people are opening their eyes to toxins, and we are all reaching for these more organic root cause approaches. So thank you for the work that you do. I'm going to put all of Alec's information in the show notes, so make sure you check that out. Get your free quote, get your DIY, hit whatever you need. Just continue to avoid these toxins. It is important for your health and the environment. So let us know if you have any questions. Thank you for being here today again, Alec. Appreciate
Sam,
it.
thanks so much for having me. It's awesome. Great talking with you.
Yes, same to you.